Welcome everybody. My name is Ariel Rivera Solari and I will be moderating this webinar on the INEE Minimum Standards 2024 edition orientation pack contributions insight. First of all, welcome everybody and thank you for joining. The ground rules for webinars are as usual with INEE. Microphones and cameras for participants are not uh, allowed during the webinar, but at the end, during the questions and answer, people will be able either to do their questions and answers by the chat box, or you will be able to open your microphone at the end of the session to do questions and answers. This is the only ground rule that we have by now, so we will start by presenting who are here with us today. As I said, hello everybody. My name is Ariel Rivera Solari. I'm based in Colombia and I'm the minimum standards practice team lead. We also have with us Ula Abu Amsha, the INEE Learning and Development Coordinator and the main workforce behind the orientation pack of the 2024 edition. We also have the kind collaboration of Kinana Kadur, the Education Cluster Coordination in Ethiopia from Save the Children, a long-time INEE member and collaborator. The other panelist is Ife Niwe, who is INEE country focal point, among other things, like the executive director for the Maple Leaf Early Years Foundation, and also she was one of the co-facilitators of one of the pilots with the Nigeria Education Cluster. And also we have Emiline Majoie, who is the INEE French language community facilitators and also one of the main contributors, and she also was co-facilitator and facilitators of several of the steps that we are going to present today. So that I will give the room to myself for the first two slides. What are we looking now? It's as sure that all of you are familiar with the new cover of the Minimum Standards 2024 edition that was launched in March during this year during the Humanitarian Network Partnership Week. And after that official launch, we have a reach out and roll out strategy and project that contains several work streams. The first one was, of course, the communication campaign, and I hope that all of you receive the communication about the new minimum standards, how to download it, and the different tools and resources that support the use of the 2024 edition. Also, we have launch events. We have around 18 launch events during this part of the year in different language with different partners and organized, some of them by INEE, others organized by the partners themselves with the support from INEE, and others done by the partners themselves. We also have target and overarching outreach, so people and different stakeholders and partners were aware of the launch and the changes of the 2024 edition. And also we have translations to Arabic, Portuguese, French, and Spanish currently ongoing, plus requests hopefully of other languages that our translation will take place. The first three requests that we had for the translations were Korean, Ukrainian, and Polish. And also we have a huge and very cornerstone work stream of the launch and rollout that are the orientations. That is what we are presenting today. Next slide, please. So what I'm going to explain now is the vision and the spirit on how the orientation pack was developed. And to do that, I would like to bring together the learning and development approach from INEE and the foundational standards for quality response of the minimum standards. In the INEE wheel, you see community participation, coordination, and analysis. That is the wordings and the standards in the outer ring, and these are the foundational standards for the whole minimum standards and domains. And we use community participation, coordination, and analysis as coherency to develop the orientation pack that explain the content and how to use and how to get knowledgeable and familiar with the minimum standards. To be coherent between the foundational standards and the learning development, the process was participatory. We have people from around 15 countries: Italy, Nigeria, Argentina, Norway, Syria. Ola, you can add later on that. People who are based in Myanmar, people, Portugal, etc., uh, with people who speak more than 7 languages, with different cultural working and context background. We have people who are currently working in crisis affected country, people who are working in more protected crisis or more development triple nexus approaches. So with this, we wanted to provide the development of the orientation pack in the spirit with INEE, a collective vision, a collective ownership, and sending the message that INEE is not the owner of the knowledge produced on the minimum standards. The content is the domains and standards, but the development of the orientation pack and the production of knowledge was a shared process aligned with community participation and analysis of the foundational standards for quality of response of the 2024 edition. Say that, I will give the next room to Ula Buamsha, who was as I say, the main creator and workforce behind the development and the coordination of the orientation pack. Ula, please.
Thank you very much, Ariel, and welcome everyone, and thank you for attending this session to celebrate with us this piece of work that was a fully collaborative piece of work. I don't want to take too long myself. I want to give the floor to my colleagues. So the people with us today are really a small group, because we wouldn't be able to invite everyone to share their insights and reflections on this piece of work. But I wanted to maybe here to highlight that this orientation pack, the work on this orientation started back in March, where we worked with a group of people that we contacted about 30 people, maybe more than half of them contributed to the first co-design. And then we created a first draft, and we spent the summer, as soon as the INEE minimum standards were launched in May, we started to pilot the materials and improve them and add to them until we felt like it's now time to provide, to give them as open source to our membership. So this is the work of really a large group of people, and I'm grateful to all of them. And it took months, but it was really very enriching, and I hope that the result will also be useful to all the people who would be interested in learning and training about the minimum standards. So I will not take too long to describe the materials, because you will simply be able to download them. They are available now on our website, and I think my colleagues will share the link with you in the chat many times now. So I just want to highlight that the materials might appear long because they are modular. So and they are targeted at facilitators. It's a material for facilitated sessions, and each facilitator would first start by deciding what parts of the materials will be they need to use based on the needs and the expectations of their let's say the target audience. There are materials that would fill more than 4 hours if we give them all the necessary time for group work, for reflections, for questions and answers. It will take more than 4 hours, but we can even select materials for as short as 90 minutes. So this is why it's long. And we also created a very detailed facilitator guide that sometimes might be repelling when we see about 80 pages. We don't need to read everything. We need to go through the guidelines and at the beginning, and then select what we want to deliver, and just look at the parts that are of interest. So these are really The main things that I would like to share with you, we provided group activity sheets so that everything is adaptable, because these are open source, and we encourage a lot the contextualization. So we provided some photos, for example. We encourage you to encourage the facilitators to use local photos or contexts or scenarios that are more related to the context where they might be delivering this orientation. I wanted also to highlight that the orientation pack is diverse. So we needed to have this. So we have the information sharing part where there's not much interaction, and then we have other parts that are far more interactive, like discussions and then group work and individual work. And finally, we emphasize a lot on reflections and question and answers all through the orientation session. So these are things and aspects that we wanted to focus on and encourage the future facilitators to make use of. So I will just stop here to show you the detailed instructions that take the bulk of the facilitator guide, where you can see that the material is adapted. We adapted for online and face-to-face. So this is why the facilitator guide is very large, because we try to let's say, to serve all the contexts. Even with online, we kept in mind that sometimes the delivery would be in low resources, and sometimes it will be in more, let's say, with more access to better access to online tools and whiteboard and these things. So we separated this so that we make sure that every single setting can be can make use of these materials and the facilitators can organize orientations to all to audiences in diverse situations. So this is what I wanted to share with you, and I can get back to more details if later on, if you have any questions. And now I prefer to give the floor to our colleagues. And I start with my colleague and my previous colleague at INEE, and now she is the cluster coordinator in Ethiopia, Kinana Kaddour. She was with us right from the beginning with her insights and her experience to support this material. So now I hand it over to Kinana, please.
Hello. Thank you, Ada, for inviting me to talk a little bit about this. So yeah, she shared, I've used the minimum standards through my work in coordination, both cluster and refugee coordination. How cluster coordinators can, and how I've used the package. I mean, it's the obvious one is for capacity building and training of government and non-government stakeholders to better understand what education in emergencies looks like, and making sure also we have a more harmonized approach, making sure we're using the same language, especially, let's say, when it comes to our understanding of quality education. This is an exercise I've conducted quite a few times at looking at the definition in the minimum standards of quality education to make sure we are on the same page and all that quality education encompasses. When it comes to the different cluster functions, we mentioned capacity building already, strategic planning, accountability to affected populations, and then advocacy and resource mobilization efforts. When it comes to our humanitarian response plan that we develop on an annual basis, or the refugee response plan, also the education sector development planning, which clusters typically can be a part of. We have made efforts to include the different domains of the minimum standards. Maybe not all of them can necessarily be included, but also those domains being there and outlined in the minimum standards can really push us to make sure we're looking at different areas to include within the different responses and the plans. The advocacy we've done with donors. So the standard is high according to the minimum standards, but that's what the the tool is there for to help make sure, because since it does illustrate what the right to education looks like, this can help us with mobilizing additional resources. When it comes to thematic areas, it's been really useful when we're looking at, if we're doing, let's say, trying to improve our understanding and implementation in gender responsiveness, conflict-sensitive education, disability inclusion, any of the areas, really you can go back to each domain of the minimum standards and create a clear linkage at what that looks like when it comes to policy, when it comes to supporting teachers, when it comes to monitoring and evaluation. So really it's all there. And yeah, that's just a little bit about how we're using it as a cluster. Thanks, Hannah.
Thank you very much, Kinana, for your insight of the use of the Minimum Standards 2024 edition and also the use of the learning material tools of the minimum standards. Now we give the floor to Ife Nyigwe, who is INEE country focal point in Nigeria, and I said executive director of Maple Leaf Early Years Foundation, and also she had facilitated orientations for the Nigeria cluster. Ife, please, the screen and microphone is yours.
Okay, thank you so much, Ariel. And thank you to everyone for joining today. This is a unique opportunity as an orientation webinar to introduce or to familiarize ourselves with the INEE minimum standards. And of course, as members of the INEE community, we are always collectively working towards improving the quality of education for crisis-affected populations. So from my experience, both as an attendee and co-facilitating, it's important to note what you will gain from this. Like, this will help you gain a comprehensive understanding of the INEE minimum standards. And like my colleagues have mentioned, they are global tools that actually help guiding our efforts in education in emergencies. So whether you're at the recovery stage or the response stage or whatever stage you are, so it's these tools are very helpful. So I am having this orientation. I think from my experience, you become more familiar with the foundational, the core principles and the different domains that the minimum standard offers. So this includes how to ensure access to safe and relevant learning opportunities, how to uphold the rights and the dignity of the learners, especially in challenging environments. So these are some of the things that the minimum standards makes it easy for us to understand, to be able to implement in our programs. One of the things I also had the opportunity to be a part of in co-facilitating is providing practical examples. So like Ula mentioned, they're like pictures that you can relate with, so that you have actual practical examples, so that the examples that are given you are able to relate with them because they're close to your context as possible. And so this also includes the strategies to assess needs, how to design appropriate educational responses, and also to evaluate the impact of any of the interventions you're doing in education in emergencies. So not only will you learn that, you'll be able to use these tools, use the minimum standards. It's been made so easy, especially the updated version of it. When you have an opportunity to attend these orientation webinars, you are able to see how it's been updated and how it's been made a lot more easier to be able to access. So Ula also mentioned how big the document is, but it's been made in such a way that it's easier to access, easier to understand. And so orientations like this are usually very helpful. So I do look forward to participating still, co-facilitating in anywhere that I can. And I hope that we will be able to work together towards providing a brighter and more equitable future for all of our learners. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Ify. I would like to make a clarification and further building up on one thing that Ify said about the pictures. The pictures that you will find in the 2024 edition, you will not find pictures of children in the cover of the 2024 edition, and in the orientation pack, you will not find close-up or face of children or teachers. INEE has the new approach to pictures, not to show the features or people who can be recognized. So in the different scenarios or the different activities that are related to pictures, you will find either if a classroom, the children are from the back or you cannot recognize them. This is a new approach that INEE took on the usage of picture of people affected by crisis or for people in general. So saying that, I will give the microphone and the screen to Emeline Machois, who is the French-speaking community facilitator and also contributor to the shared development of the orientation pack. Emeline, please.
Thank you, Ariel. Hi, everyone. Hello, colleagues and friends. I wanted to, start by thanking Ola for the opportunity to share reflections. But these reflections are not my sole reflections. I'm here on behalf of the language community facilitators and the member services team, who've also put a lot of work into this, contributed into this, and also facilitated or co-facilitated their own sessions. So it's also important to talk about members at this stage because the orientation sessions were mostly initiated by country focal points, especially for the French language community. They were initiated by the CFPs in DRC, in Cameroon, and in Burkina Faso. I co-facilitated and some of the CFPs co-facilitated as well for French. And you will hear this a lot in my brief intervention. It was a collective effort. So those rounds of orientations enabled us to further pilot the content, especially the activities. So we wanted to make the activities as relevant, as useful as possible for the participants and for the members. The content overall was well received, as indicated in the feedback. Someone said that it was pleasant to follow. I think that's a good indicator. Content was seen as well-paced and well-sequenced. That's, thanks to many reviews of the sequencing during the different phases of the piloting. And a member also said and shared encouragement to the INEE Secretariat for the smooth communication and information sharing. So here referring to the facilitation of a session. But obviously that goes hand in hand with the content that we facilitated. At the end of the orientations, participants demonstrated that they had met the objectives by understanding the purpose and the utility of the minimum standards. And by utility, and I highlight utility and not usefulness, because utility means that they learned how to use the minimum standards and they've understood what makes the minimum standards useful and relevant to their work. I added in orange to catch your attention that there was eagerness to move into programming at the end of the orientation sessions. And this is, completely what trainings are meant to address. So this will be one of the next steps, working on the full training after the orientation sessions. Next slide, please. I want to highlight as well that collaboration is key. And here I'm going to bring a little bit of support to whoever is thinking of facilitating. Facilitating can be daunting and using new materials or resources can be challenging. Even if we know the minimum standards, using a new pack is always a challenge. So why is collaboration key for facilitators, and why is it important to liaise with the Secretariat? It's because the facilitation, I mean, your inception, preparation, delivery, and follow-up will be supported by someone from the Secretariat. Should it be the learning and development coordinator or the language community facilitators, you will not work alone. We will be here to support you, even if it's, you know, remote support. You can be sure that we're here to support you. So liaising with the Secretariat works towards content that is relevant to the experience of the members, so of the orientation that you want to offer. It will be adapted to the needs and tailored to the audience. So because we've got experience and other members have got experience as well, we can bring that experience into your preparation and make it more relevant. And also liaising with the Secretariat is very important so that we learn from the information, the feedback you will share with us, and it will improve for the next rounds of orientations. And the final point on this is that tracking experiences gives us better ability to support future experiences as well. So it's really a chain of collaboration. Next slide, please. Now, a point on experience sharing. As a participant, your learning experience will be rich when you take part in the orientation sessions because it's led by an experienced facilitator who can also be supported by someone who's already facilitated the content. And also it's rich because of the active participation from everyone joining the experience. And the learning experience is reinforced by the group's dynamics. And that is, I think, something that is very strong in the work of INEE, of what we develop at INEE. We build upon people's experiences, and again, we really appreciate feedback to improve and serve the membership better, more appropriately. Next slide, please. So the next steps, we want the pack to be used. So we would like you and anyone willing to help us promote the pack to do so by sharing the messages that have been shared with you already. If you're thinking about hosting an orientation session in another language that is not English, we've got to wait until the translations are ready in the INEE languages. But we're already welcoming requests for new orientation sessions and ready to support you in organizing one. So my final word is, while we wait for the translations and everything else, not to lose the momentum. The pack is here, it's ready to be used. Let's carry on the conversations and opportunities about it. We're obviously happy to answer questions that you have. And again, I want to end this by saying that the work behind the pack has been truly the best illustration of INEE, because it was collective work for a collective impact, and hopefully this will be used by INEE members, and we'll be getting more requests. Thank you very much, and let's hear your questions.
Thank you very much, Milene, and all the people who participated as panelists of this launching. As Milene said, we are now open to the questions, and we will try to answer in the best way possible. Ula, to you to see if we have questions to answer, please.
Yeah, thank you, everyone, and thank you, Emmeline, for sharing your experience specifically. I want to maybe make a clarification about the translation. So, as Emmeline said, we are still waiting for the translation of the INEE minimum standards as a whole, the new edition. But during this time, we managed to run the orientation in the other languages on partially. Let's say most of the orientation can be run even without the translation of the handbook, the entire handbook. So this is what was piloted by Emmeline and country focal points, and also by our colleagues in Spanish, and partially also in Portuguese. So this is possible, but it cannot be done on the entire orientation, but as a first, let's say a first level and very introductory level, most of the activities can be done only by using the map of the standards with what we have as a temporary translation of this map of the standards and the text of the standards. So this is why we were able to engage with the other let's say, language communities, and this is how we managed to also deliver with all our country focal points. And so it was a great experience where we had a multilingual orientation. So with the facilitators speaking different languages in the different groups. So it is possible, but ideally we can wait till that translation of the entire handbook is done. So this was one clarification that I wanted to add, and now I can go to the questions. There is a question from Maria. I'm not sure that I get exactly the question, but today we are talking about the orientation. And the orientation is done to introduce the participants to the INEE minimum standards, and also to make them explore specific standards that are related to their interests. So if there's an interest in curriculum, we can organize and let's say orient the orientation to discuss around specific standards that cover the curriculum aspects. So the orientation can be adaptable. There's, for example, one activity that we call it a deep dive into a standard, and then the facilitator can decide to deep dive into the standard around curriculum. This is one example. I hope I got your question clear. Otherwise, you can maybe unmute and ask if it's a different question. Thank you.
So please feel free to write your questions in the chat box. I don't know if the microphone has been already open for participants who would like to ask a question. Carla, I can answer your questions. No, the minimum standards are not based in country. For the people who are not reading, Carla is asking if we use standards from various countries to compile and create the minimum standards. No, the minimum standards were creating in 2004 as a companion for the sphere standards. So we are not using country standards, but we are referring to country standards in several domains and standards of the INEE education and emergency recovery and preparedness standards. Will be an online course for the 2024 edition standards. Ula, you want to take that or should I?
Yeah, yeah, you take it.
Okay, very much. We have an online course that some people who are in this chat, like Bente, was able to develop about the 2010 edition. So, given or taking that online course that is in Kaya, provide a very good understanding overall of the minimum standards and domains and ways of usage, etc. We hope to have the resources and the collaboration for partners and members to update the online course of Kaya to be aligned with the 2024 standards. So short answer is There is a course online on Kaya that refers to the 2010 standards. Is useful, but still need to be updated to be online with the 2024. Thank you. Anybody else who would like to make a question?
Yeah, I have a question. Are the supplementary tools for the minimum standards also going to be updated to align with the update?
Yes, the one that is being currently updated is the contextualization guidelines, the guidelines of the contextualization pack. In the work plan for the next year, we have update of different resources, and we hopefully will have the minimum standards working group up and running that will help to identify the priority of which of these tools should be updated and collaborate on that. So yes, we plan to do that. The first one that will be updated is a full-fledged training. Because remember that we're launching an orientation, not a full-fledged training. The next one that will be updated is or develop is the full-fledged training. The contextualization pack guidelines is already on being updated. Other tools need to be identified, and we will need to have the resources and collaboration for partners to update the tools to align with the 2024 edition. Thank you for the question, Kinana.
Okay. Thank you, Ariel. I'll take a question about assessment. So maybe it was not clarified enough. So this is an orientation session where it's the first session that we imagine we can deliver to an audience. So it's a short one, and we discussed a lot this aspect of assessment, and if we give people, let's say, kind of a homework, but we prefer that this would be rather for a longer training. We usually have also a 3-day training that we can offer to our members and partners. So for this one, the main assessment is the interactions around the activities. And also at the end, we have a reflection zone where we ask people to share their main learnings, their questions, and their, let's say, personal or individual action points, because we cannot expect that after 3 hours session we can have someone to commit to let's say a very deep action point that involves teams of people. So the assessment is not exactly the purpose, but we try to evaluate the learning, and we try also to get feedback from the people. We also designed a feedback form where we ask people about self-assessment of their learning, and it sticks to that and not more than that. So the other question I saw around ratio between learners and teachers. So these aspects, Joelle, thank you for your question first. These aspects are really more about contextualizing the standards and into specific contexts and specific let's say countries and regions, and this is not exactly the purpose of this orientation. So the orientation purpose is to introduce the participants to the new edition of the INEE minimum standards, and to help them go to this handbook that is more than 240 pages, and there going and navigate the document and go through the domains and standards and understand and try to relate to what this can be helpful for their work. So it's not about specific aspects of how to implement the standards in specific contexts, but we hope that participants will feel like confident to work on that once they have this orientation. Thank you. I don't know if there are any questions.
There are two other questions. Ahmed is asking if we can apply several strategies to check understanding, for instance, while and post. And there's another question for Hassan about if there will be a TOT before delivering the facilitation sessions.
So yeah, for Ahmed, yeah, this can be, this is an open source orientation, and as you will see, it's very large, and we try to focus on the main aspects of supporting online versus face-to-face, and to support also the modularity in the duration of the session. But beyond that, every facilitator can decide on other aspects. So if you think that a post orientation assessment is feasible, why not? It's up to the facilitators to decide for themselves on any additional aspects. So all the bits and pieces can be adapted and contextualized, and we try to support let's say, the largest common dividers, as we say, among all the scenarios of orientations that we were able to put in one document. As for Hassan, yes, this TOT question is a big question, and we hope that we will bring in, let's say, an answer to it. We are thinking about having a roster of facilitators, but this is an entire additional program to set a roster of facilitators supporting the INEE minimum standards in the different contexts. And yeah, it's also, it depends on resources that INEE can mobilize to organize this, let's say, to gather a roster of facilitators and empower them to deliver sessions.
If I may add, Ula, as already Milene explained very clearly, anybody who would like to facilitate or to do an orientation, please reach out to INEE and we would be able to support the delivery of the orientation sessions by sure. By now in English, with the translations is there in the other languages.
Yeah, Ariel, there's a question about the contextualization from Maria. I don't know. I'll let you take the time to read it.
Right.
It's 3 parts or 2 parts question.
Well, Maria, first question is in any encouraging minimum standards contextualization based on previous experience and lesson learned? Absolutely. Lesson learned, so how the contextualization process were done is always useful to take into consideration for a new contextualizations. We are having these discussions among the partners we are helping to develop or to update the contextualization pack, whether a contextualization should be based on the 2010 contextualization or should contextualize directly the 2024 edition. This is something that it's also need to take into account how useful was the 2010 contextualization. So short answer, yes, for previous contextualization are extremely useful to take into account, also taking into account how the context has changed. The second part of the question is, does INEE foresee training on the latest version of the minimum standards? I think Ula already answered that. Yes, we envision rolling out this orientation pack by INEE, and we hope that we will have partners to support us on the rolling out of the orientation, and a full-fledged training is on the top priorities to be developed for next year. Do you need to be certified training on the minimum standards 2024? That is a very, very tricky question because INEE is not a learning or a training organization that can certify trainers, and I would like to go to the weeds and nitty-gritties of that discussions. INEE can provide support or can say that people attended TOTs or different kinds, but INEE is not cannot certify as people as such. Ula, if you would like to elaborate on that, please.
Yeah, this is why I mentioned a facilitator roster and not a certified trainer, because it it's maybe only terms, but this is just to mention that there is no certification because we cannot make any certification. But we hope that we will manage to create, let's say, to have a program to create a roster of facilitators, and that we maintain the connection with them, and that they continue to be updated on any new aspects or on any approaches that we would like them to support for the rollout of the minimum standards through training and potentially through contextualization or other aspects. So this is really a big question of great interest for us at INEE, but yeah, as you can guess, it's also very resource intensive, and we hope that we will bring a better answer and say yes, we will do that in the near future. So thank you very much. And I see so many people saying that they are interested in being in this pool, and I hope we will have good news very, very soon for that. Thank you. Emmeline, you wanted to answer Carla, I think, on the assessment aspects.
Yeah, you've said a lot about it, but I wanted to, add that the activities are how we can assess the learning and the understanding, basically, through direct monitoring of the answers and the inputs from participants. That's what gives us an idea of what we should repeat or work further on. Those are the best indicators, basically practice and direct feedback. And also we've got like a shared document where we can log questions or comments, and we do go back to that and bring answers. And also when we do them online, we recommend to have no less than 30 participants in one go, so that the co-facilitators can really closely monitor progress. So I think number is also quite important to bear in mind when you facilitate, if you want to follow understanding and some form of assessment.
Yeah, I see Susan suggesting pre-training and post-training tests and reflective sessions. Yeah, this is what we do when we have a longer training. We also said, we propose in the facilitator guide that maybe there would be some interaction and pre-session information gathering from the potential participants, and also there's a post-session feedback form that can be augmented to be more of an assessment. So this is left to the facilitators, because otherwise the facilitation guide would have reached 100 pages, and it's already very challenging. I hope that people will not get afraid with the 70 pages that we have at the moment. So yes, there are many things that we can do differently, or add components. And we are also discussing in among our team that potentially, if we receive suggestions, and they are all welcome from our members for additional activities or additional ways of doing, or let's say practices that they've done to deliver this orientation, we can create a repository of these suggestions and share them publicly on our website. So we're trying now to collect this internally among our team, and as soon as we feel that like we have enough materials to suggest this publicly, we can create this repository for everyone. So please don't hesitate to share your good experiences with us, so that we also share them with the entire network. Thank you. Are there any questions, other new questions for me or for,
I don't see any further questions, but it was a very nice interactive question and answer session, and I'm glad that we allowed enough time after the presentations to have this exchange. Will be a rollout and will be a reach out strategy also. Strategy is too much to say, but at least vision how to will do outreach and to different partners if they are interested in implementing the orientations either online or either face to face by themselves. That is answering Andrea Naleto comment on that. If there's no more questions, and we are still 9 minutes to the hour that was planned for this webinar, but I think that we have done a good job on answering the questions on the presentation. So please, if anybody else would like to have a final remarks, do so in our last 8 minutes now. One already passed with my speech.
Yeah.
Ariane, I would like, because I see that they're online, to say thank you to Saidou Diala, who's the Burkina Faso CFP, who initiated one of the sessions, and also Banabaka, who has been with us as CFP for several years and in Cameroon, and also initiated, was part of the co-facilitation team for one of the sessions. So thank you to these gentlemen for their contributions to the network.
Absolutely. I joined that. So
Yeah, maybe a final word. I
Sure.
see so many people who contributed to this pack in a way or another from the beginning till the end. And I want to thank them all. They know themselves. I don't want to mention any names so that I don't miss the others. But thank you all for being with us from the beginning and to attend today with us so that we celebrate this. Thank you. Maybe I don't want to put my colleagues on the spot, but the language community facilitators were with us today to support questions in the other languages. So I don't know if any one of you wants to say anything, please jump in, and thank you all. We asked Emily to represent you because we didn't want to have many speakers and confuse the audience, but you are all as great and as great contributors as Emmeline, of course. So over to you, and I'll stop speaking. I spoke a lot.
So Ayman, Laura, Maria Fernanda.
Thank you so much, Ola and Emmeline and Ariel and everyone for this amazing work, I would say. And it's been really, I mean, Emmeline has already summed it up and grounded the work so beautifully, but it's been very reflective and very collaborative work from the very beginning. And I shout out to you, Ola, for leading this work, and also for our country focal points as well, like who's been instrumental in throughout the process. I can see Ahmed also from Yemen and Wahid from Palestine amongst the participants, that they have been very enthusiastic in feeding into this package and throughout the process. And both of them are part of the translation reference group for the Arabic version, which we're hoping to finalize early next year. Yeah, shout out for everyone, and look forward to implementing and facilitating the MS package. Thanks.
Maria
Very
Fernanda.
quick. Okay, thanks. Very quickly, I just want to say a huge thank you for everyone, especially for Ula, for making this process contribution pool. So we had a lot of opportunities to discuss, to work together inside INEE Secretariat and with our members, and it was a very, very important opportunity for us and to our members. And I want, as my colleagues, I want to say a very special thanks for our special Portuguese community member, language member, Julio. He's here with us, and he is part of INEE for such a long time and helped us a lot with special training session in July in Porto. So thanks, Julio, for your contribution, and to my colleagues, and special to Ula and Ariel. Thank you for opening this process to us all and to make this last month a good experience for all of us. Thank you.
Okay, so
Ariel, if I can just add
of course.
From my own perspective, I just want to encourage everyone. I know looking at the document, it can seem overwhelming at first, but the INE Secretariat is really very supportive. So, if you need to reach out to any of the members of the Secretariat, they are always very willing and very accessible to assist in any way that you need the support. So I want to encourage that, and not to be daunted. It's a huge document, but it's been, with all the contributions that the members have made, it's been made so that it's easy for you to be able to access and to be able to use in your program. So I just wanted to add that part of it. The INE Secretariat is there for your support if you need it.
So I know that the participants don't have the microphone open, but I will end this as I usually end when there's people speaking in different languages. So please, all who have microphones, say hello, see you next time in the language that you prefer. So, chao, nos vemos la próxima.
إلى اللقاء.
إلى
Thank you.
اللقاء، مع السلامة ورحمة الله.
But in next time.
À bientôt. Merci.
Obrigada a todos, até a próxima.
Closing the webinar now. Thank you, everybody. Bye.